Ever imagine yourself at the controls of a train? Feeling that surge of power as you navigate the tracks.
Exhilarating, isn't it?
Totally. But today's deep dive isn't actually about being the one in the driver's seat. It's about teaching others to do it. We're exploring the world of occupational railway instructors.
Ah, shaping the next generation of train operators. It's a critical role, to say the least.
Absolutely. And we've got some great insights to help us dig into this, all thanks to RoleCatcher.
A treasure trove of career information.
Totally. So let's get down to it. What does an occupational railway instructor actually do?
Picture this. You're not just explaining, like, how to pull a lever or read a gauge. You're instilling the knowledge, the skills, the responsibility that comes with operating these massive, complex systems.
It's a lot more than just here's how you make the train go.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking safety regulations. Think speed limits, communication protocols, passenger and cargo safety, emergency procedures for every scenario imaginable, and that's barely scratching the surface.
Wow, so anticipating problems, reacting under pressure, it's all part of the package.
You've got it.
Right.
And the work environment. It's dynamic. You might be out on a railway yard one day, showing trainees the ropes on actual equipment, and then the next, boom, you're in a high-tech simulator.
Simulators, like those flight simulators you see for pilots.
Exactly. Walking them through simulated derailments, sudden weather events, you name it.
Mhm.
Some instructors even travel to different rail networks, sharing their expertise. Variety is definitely part of the job description.
Okay, so for someone who loves hands-on work and maybe a change of scenery now and then, this role sounds like it could be a good fit. But what about the nitty-gritty, the pros and cons? What does RoleCatcher say?
Well, let's start with the good stuff. Flexible hours are a major draw. You're working around training schedules, so some days are longer, some are shorter, but you often have more control over your time than your typical 9 to 5.
Got it, got it. And what about those travel opportunities you mentioned? Sounds pretty sweet.
Huge perk. Getting paid to explore different railway systems. Not too shabby. And, of course, there's the immense satisfaction of knowing you're shaping careers, equipping people with skills that can last a lifetime.
There's something to be said for that feeling of making a real difference. But RoleCatcher also mentions decent salary, good job security. That's got to be a weight off your shoulders in today's world.
Absolutely. Skilled railway professionals are always in demand. And since instructors are the ones training them, job security is pretty solid. Plus, you're constantly learning, updating your skills with new technologies and regulations. So there's this built-in career progression.
Makes sense. Railways are always moving forward, right?
Okay.
But with all that in mind, there's got to be some challenges, right? What are some of the downsides?
Right. It's not all smooth sailing. This job, it can be physically demanding. You're on your feet a lot, potentially working outdoors in all kinds of weather, dealing with heavy equipment. And of course, there's always a level of risk, exposure to hazardous materials, that sort of thing.
So you need to be adaptable, maybe even a little bit adventurous, not afraid of a little hard work.
Exactly. And then there's the constant learning and adapting. That can be daunting for some. The railway industry, it's in constant motion. New technologies, updated safety regulations, you're expected to stay ahead of the curve.
So you can't just rest on what you knew 10 years ago. You have to be on top of your game.
Precisely. Especially with safety being so critical.
Makes sense. So say you've weighed the pros and cons, and you're thinking, this sounds like my kind of challenge. What does the career path look like?
Well, according to RoleCatcher, you don't just jump into training a whole class on day one. It's a process. You usually start entry-level, maybe assisting more seasoned instructors, observing their techniques, getting a feel for the ropes.
Ah, so like an apprenticeship for teaching.
Perfect way to put it. It's a chance to build a solid foundation.
So once you've put in your time as an assistant, what's next?
That's when you typically move into a junior instructor role, leading your own training sessions, providing feedback to students, even starting to develop your own training materials.
So more responsibility, more creative freedom, but I'm guessing also more pressure to deliver results.
That's the nature of the game, right? But the path for growth is there.
And after you've mastered the junior instructor level, what's next on this career ladder?
Things get really interesting. You could find yourself on track to becoming a senior instructor. You're overseeing entire training programs, maybe for a specific railway, mentoring newer instructors, staying at the forefront of industry trends.
Wow, so you've gone from student to mentor. But there's one more rung on this ladder, isn't there? What's the top spot for an ambitious occupational railway instructor?
You're right. For those who want to leave their mark, there's the role of principal instructor. The maestro of railway training, responsible for the entire training program, maybe for a major rail network, even a national organization.
Wow, that's a serious title.
Hmm.
Collaborating with industry experts, setting standards, developing new curriculum. Incredible. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about what you need to get started. What does RoleCatcher say about the skills and qualifications needed?
It might surprise you, you don't need a PhD in railway operations to break in. Often, a high school diploma is the minimum to get your foot in the door.
Really? I would have thought there'd be a lot more hoops to jump through, especially with the safety aspect.
Oh, there are definitely hoops, but maybe not the ones you'd expect. While a high school diploma might get you started, further certifications or specialized education in railway operations, those are game changers.
So it's about showing that dedication, that passion. What kind of certifications are we talking about here?
It really varies, depends on the specific area of railway operation you're interested in and what employers are looking for. But some common ones are in railway signaling, track maintenance, rolling stock, even specialized ones for specific types of trains like high-speed rail or freight transport.
So becoming an expert in a niche within the railway world. But what about those more general skills, what RoleCatcher calls transferable skills?
Those are crucial. Think about what makes a good teacher. Strong communication, breaking down complex information, patience, empathy, being able to evaluate student progress. Those are all transferable skills.
So even if you don't have years of experience working on a railway, if you've got a solid teaching background, you're already ahead of the game.
Exactly. It's about highlighting your strengths and showing how they translate. And this is where things get interesting. RoleCatcher mentions the increasing use of simulators and online platforms in railway training.
That's fascinating. So it's not all dusty old textbooks and chalkboard lectures anymore.
Not at all. Those simulators are incredibly sophisticated. We're not talking about those basic driving games.
Hmm.
These things can replicate real-world environments down to the tiniest detail.
So trainees can experience what it's like to operate a train in all sorts of situations, even emergencies, without actually, putting anyone at risk.
Exactly. It's a safe space to practice and build confidence.
That's amazing. But that also means instructors need to be comfortable with this technology too, right?
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
need to know how to use the simulators effectively, understand their capabilities, troubleshoot any issues. It's another layer of expertise.
So it's this blend of traditional teaching skills, specialized railway knowledge, and now tech savviness.
Okay.
It's a career that just keeps evolving.
Really makes you think, doesn't it, about the future of the whole field. We hear automation,
Hmm.
and it's easy to jump to, well, if trains are driving themselves, who needs instructors?
Yeah, it's the big question, isn't it? But you were hinting at this earlier. There's so much more to this job than just the hands-on driving aspect.
Exactly. Think about it. Safety regulations, risk assessment, emergency procedures, those are all still mission critical, even in a more automated world. Actually, in some ways, even more important.
More important, how so?
Well, because now you're not just dealing with like mechanical failures, right? You've got software glitches, sensor errors, potential cybersecurity threats, stuff that a traditional train driver wouldn't have even thought about.
So you're training people to manage this whole other level of complexity.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
not just reacting to what's right in front of you. It's understanding the entire system, anticipating what could go wrong.
That's a really good point.
You might even see a shift toward instructors who specialize, right? Data analysis, troubleshooting these complex systems, even cybersecurity. Skills that weren't as, essential in the past.
So the occupational railway instructor, they're not just trainers, they're like systems specialists with a teaching background.
That's a great way to put it. And it really highlights the importance of adaptability in this field. Railways are always pushing boundaries. The people who can embrace change, become lifelong learners, those are the ones who thrive, automation or not.
Makes you wonder what other skills might become essential for these instructors of the future. What about the human element, though? Is there still room for that, traditional mentorship, hands-on training, even in a world of increasing automation?
Oh, absolutely. Even with the most advanced tech, you can't replace human experience and judgment. Simulators are great, but there's nothing quite like learning from someone who's been there, done that, who's got the stories.
It's like the difference between reading about something and hearing about it from someone who's actually lived it.
Exactly. Plus, let's not forget the soft skills.
Hmm?
Communication, teamwork, problem solving, these are always going to be important in any job where you're working with people, even if those people are interacting more and more with machines.
So training people not just to work alongside automation, but to work effectively with each other in this new landscape.
Exactly, preparing them for a future where technology enhances their skills, not replaces them entirely.
This is all incredibly interesting. I'll be honest, when we started talking about automation, I was a little worried it might mean the end for occupational railway instructors. But it sounds like more of a transformation than an extinction event.
That's a great way to look at it. It's a chance for these instructors to become even more specialized, even more highly skilled, even more essential as the railway industry keeps evolving.
They're not just keeping the trains running on time, they're keeping the whole future of railway operation on track. But speaking of tracks, let's talk about something that's probably on everyone's mind. The earning potential. Does RoleCatcher shed any light on that?
They do, and you might be surprised. Occupational railway instructors, they often earn very competitive salaries.
Oh, that is interesting. Why do you think that is? Is it just the specialized knowledge or is there more to it?
It's a combination of things. Yeah, you've got the specialized knowledge and skills, for sure. But you also have a huge amount of responsibility. These are the people responsible for the safe operation of trains, carrying hundreds, sometimes thousands of passengers every day.
High stakes. And I imagine the demand for skilled instructors is only going up as the industry grows and modernizes.
Absolutely. And as we've been talking about, those skills are becoming even more specialized, more technical with the rise of automation. And often that specialization translates into better earning potential.
So for those who are drawn to this line of work, the financial compensation is another plus. But let's talk about something just as important as salary, job satisfaction. What does RoleCatcher say about that side of being an occupational railway instructor?
Well, from the research they've done, it seems like job satisfaction is generally pretty high.
That's really great to hear. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a few things. There's the intellectual stimulation, right? Constantly learning, staying ahead of the curve in a field that's always changing. Then you have the hands-on aspect, working with trains, the technology, and of course the satisfaction of knowing you're making a real difference.
It's like a ripple effect. You're not just teaching someone a job, you're impacting the lives of all those people who rely on the railway every day.
That's it exactly. That sense of purpose, it's incredibly rewarding.
It's not just a job, it's a calling. We've covered a lot of ground today. The day-to-day realities, the pros and cons, automation, the career path, earning potential, even job satisfaction. But there's one thing we haven't touched on yet, the interview process.
The gateway to any new career adventure.
And thankfully, RoleCatcher has some great tips on how to navigate that successfully.
They do indeed. Wouldn't want to leave anyone hanging.
So let's set the scene. You've done your research, you're feeling good about your skills, your experience, and bam, you land that interview for an occupational railway instructor position.
The pressure is on.
Right. It's go time. So what should people be prepared for? What are some common mistakes that trip people up in these interviews?
You know, one of the biggest ones, not being able to show that passion for railways. Interviewers, they want to see that spark, that genuine interest, not just someone looking for any teaching gig.
They want to know you're not just clocking in and clocking out.
Exactly. So brush up on your knowledge. Be ready to talk about what excites you about this field. Let that enthusiasm show.
Show them you're there to train the future, not just fill a seat. What else?
Another thing, not being able to explain how you teach, your methodology. Remember, it's not just about teaching facts and figures. You're shaping how people think, how they react in high-pressure situations.
So don't just say you're a good teacher, prove it.
Right. Be ready to discuss your style, how you adapt to different learners, how you handle those challenging students. It all matters.
Got it, got it. So showing you can think on your feet, handle the unexpected, just like a train conductor navigating a detour.
Exactly. And don't forget those technical skills we talked about. Automation means interviewers are looking for instructors who get the tech.
Right, right. So be prepared to talk about simulators, online platforms, all that good stuff.
And don't be shy about your ability to learn new technologies quickly. The industry's always moving. Adaptability is key.
You're not just along for the ride. You're driving the train. Speaking of tech, we touched on RoleCatcher's AI-powered interview prep tools earlier. That still kind of blows my mind. How can AI actually help you get ready for an interview?
Okay, so picture this. You record yourself answering practice questions, right? The AI analyzes your answers, your tone, even your body language.
Hold on, body language through a recording. How is that even possible?
It's pretty wild, right? It picks up on those nervous tics, whether you're making eye contact, your posture, all the stuff that can affect how you come across.
So it's like having a personal coach giving you feedback in real time.
Exactly. and you can practice as much as you need to until you nail it.
It's like having a simulator, but for job interviews.
Exactly. And just like those simulators help trainees master the technical stuff, these tools help you with the soft skills, the stuff that's just as crucial for acing that interview.
It's amazing how technology is changing everything. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Already, time flies when you're on a roll.
It really does. We've covered so much ground from the day-to-day of being an occupational railway instructor to automation, the career path, the salary, even the interview process. Phew.
And let's not forget, the railway industry, it's full of opportunities for the right person.
Absolutely. So for our listeners, if you're looking for a career that challenges you, rewards you, and keeps you learning, this might be your ticket to ride. Until next time, keep exploring and keep those wheels turning.